I think we are recording, LJ. How are you
We
today?
are. I'm very well, thanks. Look, how are you?
Excellent, excellent. It's another beautiful sunny day here in St. Lucia. Should I just say that, just let you know? I'm saying that with love and sending you and anyone looking at this warm Caribbean sunshine. Oh man. All
Knowing
right.
that it is, it's only 1 degree Celsius today. It's and no snow, so there we go.
No snow.
Thank
We
you for that.
celebrate the
I'll take your
wins.
warmth.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, welcome, welcome. Here we are doing this again this week. And just a little introduction of us both before we launch into the actual content for today. So I am Lark Ambrose. I am a mental fitness trainer. I love to work with people, but women especially. I have I've had a career in the corporate world, which I stepped away from a little while now, and I've been on my own and embrace coaching fully these days. So that's me. And LJ, introduce yourself.
So my name is LJ Vio, and I'm based in Ottawa, Canada. Hence the Lark rubbing in about the beautiful Caribbean warmth. I am a coach and consultant focused mainly around helping new managers become, well, let's reword that, helping new managers avoid some of the pitfalls that can sometimes happen as people move into management and current managers as well, with a real focus on raising self-awareness so that when we understand each other better, we also learn how to interact more effectively with others.
Awesome. I love that not only your work history, but our passions for helping people tap into their best selves is something that we are immensely passionate about and just definitely cements our bond and our relationship as we share that quite passionately. So yeah, thank you for joining me again. And now we're starting to record these videos. So it's awesome. It's there and it's accessible for those who may have missed it on the day when we release it, but it's always there. So as practitioners of mental fitness and Lumina Spark, we aim to help people become more self-aware. That's the point of these lives. Either we do audios or we leave these videos here. And each week we address a new personality trait or behavior. And we look at how the personality traits, when in an overextended state, could take our underlying saboteurs to an extreme. And we start to behave in ways that don't serve us or those around us for that matter. So we seek to provide information, inspire some self-reflection, because unless we can start looking at ourselves and seeing what parts of things we need to take responsibility for, then it has to start there for things to improve relationships and relationships in a very broad sense, at work, at home, in community. So that's ultimately why we are here. We give this time and why we want to make sure that people understand the modalities that we work with and how together we build on the strengths of each to offer an amazing path forward. So just wanted to put this all in context as we jump into this week. And today we're talking about feelings, schmeelings. And I love feelings, schmeelings. The saboteur that we're talking about is one I am particularly familiar with, and I have worked on quite a bit. So this should be a very interesting conversation. So we'll get more into the hyper-rational way of thinking and patterns. But LJ, how does this align with the Lumina Spark's personality qualities?
Yeah, so I love feeling Schmeelings as well. It is a great title. There are a few qualities that actually seem to align with hyper-rational. So with Lumina Spark, there are 24 different qualities, and I'm choosing 2 that seem to align with hyper-rational. And the first is logical. So logical is very effective behavior, and a trait. When it morphs into argumentative under stress, and it's not so effective. So we'll talk more about that. And the second that I think relates to hyperrational is evidence-based, the evidence-based quality. When in overextension, that evidence-based becomes lost in details. So we'll go into more details on these. We won't get lost, but we'll go into more details. Before we go deep here, let's talk about some of the strengths of hyperrational.
Right. And so just to put this into context for those who are hearing the term mental fitness and hyperrational and what does this all mean, and I throw the term saboteurs around. Mental fitness seeks to get us to a place where we can respond to life's challenges. Ooh, where does the language go today? With more clear-headed, laser focus in a calm, clear-thinking way. So that's what mental fitness seeks to do. We look at the saboteurs, and those are, through factor analysis, we've distilled it down to 10 saboteurs, 10 behaviors, 10 ways of thinking and being that we are predisposed to be, how they can take hold and take the reins, sit in the driver's seat. So those are saboteurs, and there are 10. Today, we're talking about the hyper-rational one. And what mental fitness seeks to do is take you from that hyper-rational state into what's called the sage part of your brain. So we can almost think of it like survival brain, as in logical and just left brain, and then the more right brain, wisdom, clear thinking, empathy, navigation, and exploration. So when we talk about hyper-rational, we're looking at some of the strengths of the hyper-rational. And I'll start by saying that the rational part of the hyper-rational is what we're going for. Those are the highly commendable traits that we want to embrace fully. So we're capable of deep insight and understanding when we have issues that are quite data-driven. That's when you need that's when you need a rational person on your team, someone who could really make that focus, dig through all of the weeds. They are passionate about the numbers, about the data. What does the science say about it? That's the person that you want. Your engineers, your a lot of leaders, those types of people who are very detailed, technical. That's where your hyper-rationals tend to show up in those fields a lot. In sales also, actually. They can be very observant and perceptive. They have great power for mental concentration and focus. And they are driven towards areas of deep knowledge. I didn't say wisdom, knowledge. And that's the key difference with mental fitness, knowledge and wisdom. So these can be great explorers and inventors and, engineers, like I said. And I'm not hitting on hitting the engineers up today. You guys just you are when you look at the field of engineering, I have found there to be a disproportionate amount of hyper-rationals in that field. So not beating you guys up, just calling out a saboteur that may be really active in that particular area of work. But yeah, so LJ, tell us more about the logical and evidence-based personas.
So logical is an outcome-focused quality, showing up as somebody who's objective. So I'm going to use a lot of the similar words to hyper-rational. We're not in overextension with logical. We're not stressed. And so it shows up as objective, rational, enjoys engaging in their critical thinking skills, really love that type of activity, and thinking about the logical and rational facets of an idea. So you can hear rational come out quite a bit. They enjoy being shrewd and calculating, using reasoning and structured thinking. And at work, they enjoy utilizing their power of reason to persuade. So I wouldn't say that somebody with a strong preference for the logical quality falls into any one type of role. it's just one of the qualities that can be used in multiple different ways. Evidence-based is focusing on observable facts and very attentive to detail. People who have a strong preference for evidence-based need information. They need the facts. They're not going to stay high level. They're going to drill down and make decisions based on facts, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked about some of the strengths or benefits, and what are some of the thinking patterns that can be associated with the hyper-rational versus the rational.
All righty. So you asked a very interesting question, and we were looking at what are some of the thoughts that are going on in the hyper-rational's mind, or what are some of the things that if you're hearing yourself thinking, then you can raise your hand. Maybe you have a very strong hyper-rational. And that's where it's all about the rational mind is where it's at. Good decisions come from logic. That's something a hyper-rational would think, right? I need to shut out intrusive feelings and emotions. No place in this. It's all about business. We're focusing on the data in front of us. We're very tunnel vision almost. So that
just thinking feelings, schmeelings.
Feelings, schmeelings, they just interfere with everything. And another interesting thing to note is that not only does a hyper-rational value their ability to remain quite logical, they may have a tendency to look at emotions in others as a weakness. So there is where that judge comes in and brings in the hyper-rational, where we pride ourselves so much on being able to think things through, devoid of the emotional impact on ourselves or on others, quite frankly. But we also view others and think of others as, well, if they would just get a hold of their emotions, they might think a little bit more clearly about things. So those are some of the thoughts that I would say the hyper-rational would have a lot of. That's their way of thinking. That's their way of thinking. Yeah. So what about in an overextended state? What might someone who is in overextended, what might they be logically thinking?
So they can be too logical in overextension. So again, overextension is stress, pressure. It's not serving you well. And so while logical is wonderful, when in overextension, it's too logical, perhaps ignoring other people's views. So thinking pattern might be, you're wrong. It could be the emotional aspect that they're not resonating with, or just the logic is incorrect with somebody else. They can become so focused on the analytical process that they really only give a cursory thought to those around them. They can come across as quite critical because they are thinking critically about others, and overusing those rational tendencies. This can show up as argumentative, right? They're so focused on the logic of the argument that they hurt people's feelings. They may, and it can be viewed as abrasive, argumentative, impatient with perceived lack of logic, and even to some extent thinking that other people are stupid. It's a horrible word, but so really not, under this pressure, the logic is not being used for good. Okay? It's shutting other people out and making them feel bad. Tell me more about the hyper-rational saboteur.